these robot noise. All right,
Recording in progress.
very good. All right, and then this is just for everyone who's not in the know about what's happening right now. Anyone who's not in the know, Closure in Moscow, Australia's hottest prog band since Men at Work, about to embark on another US tour for I think the second time this year, right, guys?
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
God. And please everyone listening, welcome Christopher and Michael. It's such an honor to have you guys here. I've been a big fan for a long time. I know you guys hear that a lot, but you guys have been kicking ass for a long time, so it's great to have you.
Thanks very much for
Thanks for having
having
us
us.
on.
Of course. All right, so let's just dive in. As I mentioned earlier, this is the second time this year you guys are hitting in support of a new album in the United States. I caught you guys in 2019, I think, with Protest the Hero. It might have
Yeah.
been, okay, was that 2019?
I think it was 2018.
Okay, yeah, that would make a little more sense. That was an incredible show. And I know that I've kind of shared bits and pieces of that over since it happened, but genuinely, like I was watching kids cry, young kids, I want to say like 15, 16 year olds, like never thinking that they were going to hear Sweetheart live or anything like that. It was emotional to watch. It was really awesome. But I'm sure you guys are asked all the time, like, what's your reception like in the States? But how would you, I'd rather ask, like, what, how would you guys describe the arc of your reception over the years in the United States?
Well, I think it's been sort of a case of people have just sort of kept the candle lit, and we've been surprised every time, thinking like, surely now no one gives a shit. And then, I mean, more than ever, the last little run that we did was pretty overwhelming. Like, people
Yeah.
flying from like, states away, driving. I think there was one dude in Tennessee that drove 20 hours from. Do you remember where they came from,
Yeah.
Baz?
No, I can't remember. I think it was up north.
Yeah, somewhere like
Maybe a Seattle? I don't know. Is that a 20-hour
or
drive?
like a
Seattle,
one, or
Nashville?
like near like a friggin' Montana or an Idaho kind of deal to Tennessee. And there was a bunch of that, and it was just like honestly so like I was just so gobsmacked that like there is just this core crew of people that really, really still give a shit. And we're just like so stoked. And I guess having so much time between albums, there's a bit of like low key shame that comes in that's like, man, like, these people that really care, we've left them in the lurch for so long. And they were just genuinely stoked and appreciative, just like been waiting for this for years. Like it's so good to have you
Yeah.
guys here. And that sort of seemed to be the sentiment across all the shows in the last run. And it was just so nice to see that, like, yeah, we can continue to put stuff out now, and there is like some serious love from like a really dedicated core crew of people.
Yeah, of
Yeah, it
course.
hits you right in the feels.
I'm glad it does. Like, honestly, that makes me feel good to hear because I know, yeah, it had, it was a long time. It's like 9 years, but at the same time, I think if you're a creative person, that's pretty understandable. Like life isn't all about like being in a creative vacuum. And it can be frustrating. I think I do have a question actually hiding out about that. So we'll get more into that. But I think a lot of them do understand. Like I know that the internet is loud as fuck, but it's your fans love you guys and they have kids now, some of them too. So they're just like, when you're older you guys can come rock out at the shows. But yeah, that's beautiful. I'm glad you guys feel that way. Sort of next question. This is a almost a throwback, but not really. But it's way back in the day, you guys did a Bus Invaders when you guys were doing Warped Tour, and I remember watching that like right when it came out. Chris, you said something super profound out of nowhere about your interactions and actions with others being your most important possessions. And I think you even blew the interviewer away a little bit. They were like, "Oh shit, I got to rethink some basic life stuff." But I was curious if you have any advice, both of you, on like developing mental stamina for longer tours.
Yeah, I think
Mental state.
for me, it's kind of just like this arrested development, like life suspends and you just go into alternate reality mode. And like if we want to like harken back to Warp Tour, I feel like, I live a pretty chaotic life, and it's kind of nice to just go, everything is on pause and I'm in the traveling circus right now. And Warp Tour was definitely that vibe of like, I've run away from home to the traveling circus and reality is on pause. And it is taxing. It can be really taxing mentally, but I think you just got to try and appreciate the shows and the fact that you're getting to play for a bunch of people. And as much as it can become a slog and feel like like punching in, like clocking on, putting in the punch card for the day sometimes, I think once it's like go time and it's show time, for me personally, it's like this weird forced accidental like zen flow state where everything melts away and it's like I'm being afforded this like space to tap into, I don't know what the fuck. Baz might have a different answer because there's there's missing a wife and child in the mix. How have you found it, Baz?
Yeah, I think aside from things like getting enough sleep and trying to get like if you get the chance to eat good healthy food with like just some veggies and that kind of thing, do that and don't drink too much and all that kind of stuff. Aside from that stuff, I've found that it's been like keep light on your feet and keep humor involved and keep it like silly and kind of appreciate the ridiculousness of it rather than letting it like get you down, but constantly like enjoying the banter and also just the chill time of where you get like a little bit of time alone and you can just a couple of deep breaths and then run back into the madness like full force.
It can be hard to find that alone time. But yeah, I definitely agree. Even if it means the bathroom stall and just slamming your head against it for 30 seconds, it can be good, worth it. Um, and we'll pivot in a second to some album stuff. But one thing I noticed is you guys, sorry, you guys just played. I think the last tour that you just did with a band called Toe Hider, and you're bringing them out here as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you guys tell me about that? I honestly have no clue about that band, but it's a fascinating name.
Yeah, I don't know how the name actually relates to the music.
Thought it was Toe Finder. Wrong Google search is all I can say.
Yeah, that's a spicy Google search for sure.
Found him eventually.
Yeah, I mean, Mike from Toe Hider, I hadn't really heard much of their stuff, like listened very actively outside of just, giving them a little bit of a check out, being, the fact that we're label mates and getting to see him live. Yeah, Mike is a fucking virtuoso. He is like, yeah, you're in for a treat when you watch them
I'm
Yeah, it is
on
a
this front.
musical show.
a musical.
He's one of those prolific sort of, you know just genius mastermind dudes. He has like a different band in every continent that plays the Toe Hider stuff,
Wow.
and he shreds like a motherfucker. Like he's got some serious chops and can
Yeah,
also sing
it's
like a
so much fun
motherfucker.
watching him.
Cool.
He's
Yeah.
got that like super kind of playing where you think he's going to fall off and then he catches it and it's just like never seems like there's a wrong note, although there could be, but he's kind of so good he'd put it in there in a fun way.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, and it's got sort of that like, it's got a bit of like Devin Townsend to it, but with
Uh-huh.
some of the like prog pomp of yesteryear, and it's soaring falsetto, blistering solos, um, and it's definitely serious music, but it has this like silly edge to it as well. It's a little like
Yeah, it's kind of aware of
theatrical.
itself and its cheekiness. And it's so like nutty and crazy at times, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't sort of lose itself in being too serious and too like um focused on that element, because there's some songs that do go like a little bit slower in the set and there's more songy, but you still have those like cool little pockets where you're like, oh yeah, there's a bit of fun.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a fun show with how you guys. I again, I saw you guys shred live, so I have zero doubts about how that half of the show is going. But I think I'm going to see you guys in Salt Lake. I am
Cool.
excited to see them for the first time and experience them for the first time. I'm kind of purposely not listening to them just to get that experience. Not because I don't like them in a premeditated way, just because I want to be surprised.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go into it. Like, yeah, that just very, yeah, it'll be a cool surprise because yeah, as much as I described those things before and said like it's got a bit of Devin Townsend and this and that, it is pretty like unto itself. And he definitely has, like, you can tell because of his writing output, he's definitely like developed a very like singular and like unique sort of style in his writing.
Cool, cool. I'm excited. Um, so let's pivot a little bit more to the album stuff. Obviously, Softail came out last year. Uh, the first record in nearly a decade. And again, I know you've been routinely pestered about whatever the fuck you're doing in every phase of the record, probably since Pink Lemonade dropped. Um, and again, sometimes it brings sort of a weird feeling on, I think, creative people who watch that journey and go like, damn it, I wish people would just like mind their own business a little bit. So rather than kind of drag you guys through that more, I was wondering if you guys could say anything about what you think the biggest misconception about the timeline for the record might be, at least that you know of.
Uh, this could totally be projecting, but I just assume maybe some people just like, I don't know if you guys ever did this, but like when you're in high school and you have teachers, you forget that they're like humans outside of being teachers at school, and you kind of have this. I used to be like, yeah, they just go back into the cupboard and go on their charging dock like when they're not teaching, because they're just teachers and they don't have like a rich inner life, and they're not a normal fucked up human that's got fucked up human things going on. They just go back in the cupboard and then they go back to teaching when I get back to school at 9 in the morning. So maybe that, like, if like some people just sort of assumed we were down at the closure headquarters under the volcano,
My God.
and like, what are they doing? They're clearly all there in their compound. Like, they need to stop playing with their pet giraffes. I don't know. Bass, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I didn't really know. I didn't hear anything that was like an odd misconception. But yeah, there is that idea of people just thinking you're there going like, yeah, that's a cool thing. Should we record that? No. And then, yeah, writing, I don't know. I don't know how the amount of time can be wasted appropriately
Right.
if you weren't living life.
It's a good way of putting it, because I never felt like it was getting to a Chinese democracy situation where, like the Guns N' Roses album
Yeah.
in production since the 80s finally releases and it's a piece of shit. I don't think anyone was ever worried about that, but I started to wonder just like, why are we so, we got to give them some space, essentially, is just kind of how I was coming at that. But I'm glad you guys didn't like overly internalize that. I know a lot of bands feel like the pressure gets to them. You guys seem like strong individuals with your own shit going on. So yeah, that's good to hear and inspiring to just keep having my own fucked up shit.
I think
Oh, the
because it has
pressure
been so
definitely.
long.
I was just going to say the pressure definitely got to me because I think I definitely slip into the trap of, you know, self expectations and imposter syndrome and all the rest of it, and then think like you kind of, yeah, I think it's a really bad trap to fall into, placing yourself in a perceived expectation from others. And it's like, at the end of the day, if people still care, they're going to care. And anyone that doesn't care, well, they don't care. So you got to try. Like, for me, it was just like, why did you start doing this? What was like it was the fun of expressing something and creating something for the sake of itself, and just being like, yeah, this is something that's exciting and interesting. And then, yeah, I think as expectations pile onto it, and then time drags on, for me, it was definitely yeah, a bit up and down when it comes to like putting too much like symbolism and like expectation into everything.
It's a hard thing
Yeah.
not to do when you're super creative. Or at least like I shouldn't even really put it that way, but like I think when you have a mind that's willing to expand, that makes sense. And sort of on that note, we're gonna do a couple like specialized questions. The first one's for Chris, and the second one we'll shoot over to Barrett. So on this album, the lyrics are obviously like a lot more personal and a lot more like grounded in like just experiences that a lot of other people can relate to and resonate with. But you're also never really shy about being vulnerable, even when you're being silly on the like the previous records. Would you consider the Soft Hell album overall like a more or less cathartic experience for you based on what you've done in the past?
Oh yeah, definitely massively cathartic. I mean, there was a point in the writing where the only way I could like deal with very volatile and turbulent emotions and just where things were at was like, I'd be going to Sal's house whenever I could to like demo vocals, because I was like, I need to do that, otherwise I'll just be festering and I just can't deal with it. And it's a bit of a weird double-edged sword where like, you can't force inspiration, but you also need to try and like just actively get yourself in the space. Like Barrett and I have spoken before about this John Cleese video where he talks about the creative process and like giving yourself the space and facilitating the space. And then there's shit to do with like Nick Cave, and I've had conversations with like a previous manager of ours about how Nick Cave will go into his actual office and like clock on like 9 to 5, and even if nothing happens that day, it's like the effort was made and the time was put in. You went in. It might have been like drawing blood from a stone that day. Another day, shit might just pour out. And yeah, I definitely find in my avoidance, it's hard to sometimes facilitate that. But when there's some sort of external force, and yeah, just to dovetail back to the blessing and a curse thing, like I think I definitely a lot of creative outpouring comes out when there's just like a lot to process and a lot of feelings, and it's like, well, that's the only way to sort of like in a weird way like sanctify it and give like suffering some sort of divine purpose. And that might be a really toxic thing, so back to the double-edged sword thing. But it's also like, yeah, it was very cathartic to be like, well, that's kind of the only thing I can channel it into, so for better or for worse, just ride the lightning.
Excellent. That was a really great answer. Thank you. Um, and then Barrett, moving over, I'm hoping I'm getting this right. I hope I don't get this wrong. There's a lot of really cool guitar stuff. I know I'm not wrong about that. But I think it's probably your most crazy solo ever in like Love Lash. Is that you ripping the solo at the end?
Yeah, those little ones really, because the funny thing about that end song, I did, because normally we get to the third chorus and it'll be, either you repeat the third chorus with another element, to build it up, or you do something totally different. And as a joke, I did this like Prince kind of big, oh, I've forgotten the name of the song.
like Purple Rain
Purple
kind of
Rain. Yeah.
ending vibe. Yeah.
And did that as a joke, sent it through, and everyone was like, "Oh, cool, let's do that." I was like, "No, I don't know about that. That's," and
I
it
feel
sort
like
of got
that's a
stuck
bunch
with it.
of things that have like made the cut over the years has been, just as a side note, Barrett is such a prolific writer. It's kind of staggering. Like he'll have so many sick ideas for the same song and will often just be like, here's this little piss take thing. But I think there's some magic in, yeah, the way you, when you do
Yeah,
those piss take things, because you're not like, because there is that carefree, like, this is just a piss take, whatever. But there's so
yeah.
much of your personality in that stuff. Like, and I'm often surprised. Like, there was a recent thing you did that was so goofy and had like the Eurodance beat under it, and it was clearly a piss take. And I was like, oh, I don't know, I kind of feel that it's kind of
What's that thing?
audacious enough that it just, oh, you know, the like little bird demo thing from a little while ago, and then you
Oh
just like
yeah.
turns it into this like hectic club beat at the end of like this little demo idea thing. I don't know. Point being, yeah, Baz will often do that, and I am often surprised because it's, some of them are just like, yeah, this is goofy as hell, but also it's just got the Baz personality through and through.
That's
And it's
if
great.
we're all talking about like the same. I know that you guys are talking about it like a separate demo, but that the track, the guitar tracker solo at the end of Love Lash, it took me probably two or three times just to like get the song overall, not in like I don't know if I like it, but I'm like, what is different about this? Like it's a little more pop centric, but I'm glad you guys both kind of mentioned Prince because that was ultimately one of the things that I settled on. I was like, this has a strong Prince thing going on, at least as it crescendos out towards the end. I was like, that's very, very stylized and really cool. And like just dripping with weird, is it like it's not just distortion, is it? It sounds like there's kind of like a weird popping thing going on the guitar.
Oh, there'd be like a flanger as well. Lots of flanging. Probably an octave thing, and then maybe some other modulation too. A
Something
lot of all, yeah, almost all the tones were done in the box.
right,
So
which is what I wanted to ask
it's oh
about.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I've listened to a couple interviews where you were talking about how a lot of the guitars were recorded remotely and in the box, like you were saying. So I was wondering what was the bigger learning curve for you, like adapting to having to learn like maybe engineering stuff on the fly, or once you had done that, the ability to like, was it crippling to just be able to submit take after take?
Yeah, it was the take thing because I would sort of get a tone that was ballparking it. Luckily, because Andre, the producer, is really easy to have faith in him and being like, I can send him anything that is, the child's drawing version of something, and he'll go, yeah, 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 I get what you mean. Here we go. Here's the there you go. That's it, right? And you're like, yep. Um, so I didn't really worry too much about the engineering. It was just getting it to a point where I could, you know, feel the emotion of the part or get the clarity kind of that I needed. And then the crippling part was not having another set of ears there to go, oh, I don't like that one, or, don't use that guitar with the neck pickup. So I had just, like, I don't know, I think at one point, because I kept changing the way that I was doing it, but at one point I had three takes of each pickup on a guitar times like three guitars, and it just
Oh,
took me ages. And I was like, this is a stupid way to do it.
yeah, that's a
And
lot.
I was talking to Sal, and Sal was like, just drop yourself in for the bits and just finish them. Pick two guitars and do it that way. And sort of once I lightened up on it and just went, I think this one, who's going to stop me? Uh, and if there was anything that was weird, Andre would tell me. He would go, there's something weird about that guitar frequency wise or something. Can you try something different? So yeah, as soon as I sort of let go of that, like, oh, I'll try to give as many options as I can. It still wasn't as fun as recording with somebody else. There's just not how you have that energy and you have somebody pushing you and going like, no, you didn't make it. Go again. Having that kind of thing is fun. It also is somebody to give you like the pat on the head when you do a good job.
Oh yeah.
because you don't. Oh, there was other times as well. I would send it away, and he would go like, "You're 10 cents sharp on everything. Your whole track is 10 cents sharp." It's like, no, this can't be. That took me ages to record, and it would be have to like re-record stuff, or figure out a way to get them like to flatten them down with something.
That is that is almost how I predicted that, but that sounds crippling, but also very cool. And again, I think all the results speak for themselves. It's such a dense album overall that like you can listen to it with different headphones and sort of be hearing different things throughout. And so that kind of brings me to this next sort of triangulation thing. How do you guys triangulate this thing being vocals and guitar with Manny?
How do
How do
you
you mean?
mean?
How does that writing process, like, do you send him stuff? Does he send you stuff? Chris, do you write a vocal part and you're like, actually, Manny should sing this? Like, how he does both. So I'm just curious, and he does both well. Like, I'm just curious where he comes into the alchemy of all the melodic parts.
Yeah, so usually Manny and I will collaborate on vocals together, and I think we work really well together because he's a great, like, he's got great pop sensibility. He's a great hook writer, and I can come up with this fun little part that I think is really interesting and cool, but maybe over labored. And then, you go so far down the rabbit hole, you hear something a certain way to your own ears. But then he's got that great, like, I'm going to listen to it at face value. Does it connect with me?
Yeah.
Not this, it feels weak. And then he'll sort of like the last
He'll
couple
go
of
like, "You
tracks.
need this note or something," and then just bust out one thing, and you're like, that's the
Yeah.
one that hits you and makes you go, yeah.
Yeah,
Rad.
so like the last, so like for an example with Soft Hell, the last two tracks that were written vocally for it were AT Field and Jaeger Bomb. And it actually felt really good. That was sort of in the writing process, we really kind of took it back to the way we wrote for like First Temple actually together, where we're just like, he'd be over at my mum and dad's place and we'd like churn it out together. And yeah, it's just it feels like a really good bounce off partnership. And
It's a
like the
great
chorus.
team when you send stuff back after you guys have been together. It's always like a really fun and exciting moment.
Yeah, like like when I heard the Jaeger Bomb instrumental from you, I was just like, how the fuck do you write vocals for this? And then all of a sudden, like, getting in the room with Manny, laboring over it. And then, just a simple idea like Manny being like really Brit pop, like Oasis chorus. And then it's like, yeah, how would that sound over something like this? And then all of a sudden you go to chorus and it's like, okay, well, that's half the song done. And then all of a sudden, I'll have a verse idea. He'll like be sitting back listening. And I really like that there really is no ego. Like, and I think we've really developed that more as we've gone. Like, we just want to do what serves the songs, and no one ever gets precious about something changing or their idea being, or someone expressing that their idea could be refined or better, or it could be something different. And so, yeah, like I would, tinker with the verse bit, and he's like, yeah, but I'm not feeling it here. How about something like this? He's really great at like coming up with a very quick and like very like you can catch the meat of it, like an idea. And I'm very sort of like minutia OCD detail oriented, and will then like nut out like, all right, what are the particulars? How does this slot in with any refrains or harmonies? And yeah, and then all of a sudden, back to the Jaeger Bomb example, it's kind of mostly fleshed out. And then hearing the finished product, I'm like, it sounds like a pretty straight up and down verse chorus song and really cohesive compared to hearing the instrumental and going, what the fuck do you even do? And yeah, I think having him on board for that, just yeah, like Baz was saying with the recording alone thing, like having just that person to bounce off when you're bashing your head against the wall and they just like bust out an idea that's just a little waffle, like ad lib melody or something that they might not then like see where it goes, but you've got the other brain there to go, that's just hit something for me, like, and then how about this? And yeah, the collaboration is always really fun and surprising.
It definitely like comes across. And yeah, it's like I was saying, it's just so dense overall. And I mean, that's kind of the same case as Pink Lemonade, and honestly to an extent stuff on First Temple too. Just the density of the parts and like the I'm not sure how to even describe it, like the legitimacy of the melodies and the vocals in particular too. It's just such a awesome gestalt thing that feels like a big concrete thing that doesn't just feel like, I don't know, there's a lot of bands that maybe you guys got lumped in with early on when you guys were doing more of the post-hardcore stuff that I was like, Closure in Moscow shits all over those guys. And I'm not gonna name names, but you guys stood out for a long time for a reason, because I was like, there's so much more happening. There's so much more depth here. I think a lot of people felt that way. But real fast, I'm gonna see if I can just pause the recording part of the Zoom. I still have my Logic session going, but I'm just gonna see if I can pause this without ruining everything. So let's just
Okay.
cross the fingers real fast. What's this doing? Recording. That was fun. That was what we were trying to avoid.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that was my fault. Let me get.
Oh, I thought that was me, because it was like the free meeting has ended, and I was like, shit, is there a time limit because I haven't like paid for a Zoom account or something?
Dude, that is the case, but it's because I am not paying $100 as the head of the organizer of the meeting. But
Yeah,
that's why I
right.
have the Logic thing going.
Okay, cool.
But I guess we're recording again, so I'll stitch it all together.
Yeah, cool.
But okay, we were talking about Andre's.
I was just saying that Andre has such great like not just production sensibility, but yeah, like songwriting and vibe sensibility. And um yeah, we just like implicitly trusted him because he's he's just one of those special galaxy brain freaks that has the juice. I don't know how else to put it.
He's got some good ears, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he really sees all the way to the end. I think because he would get us sort of like he would show us, pre-mixes and early stage mixes, and we would sort of be like, oh, I don't know, can we have more guitars? But we really didn't get the stage it was at. And then as it got further down the line, you would go, oh wow, yeah, that like every next step was like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted without you actually like was like we shouldn't have been giving notes at all almost until the end. Because when he would go, oh, mastering won't make that much of a difference. And then he does the mastering and we go, oh yeah. That's like where because we just have regular ears, we're just listening to it kind of as regular people, and he's seeing a few steps ahead. He showed one time we were looking at drums for Jaeger Bomb, and I remember being on the phone with Duncan Saladin, and he was like, okay, what do you think about this kit? And he played it, and we were all silent because I could tell we were all like, I don't like the sound of that kit. And then Sal finally spoke up and was like, it was a bit boxy, man. And he was like, oh yeah, but hold on, this is what I'm going to do to it. And he just quickly knocked up like the cheap version of the plugin stuff that he would put on, and he played it, and then we were like, oh yeah, that's it, that's perfect.
That's a guardian angel right there.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love working with him.
That's cool. I one time I had a experience with the producer where like you were saying, we have normal ears, right? The producer knows a little bit more about what's coming down the pike, and we kept asking for more drums, and then one day he just let us have more drums and let us hear it, and then he just turns to us and he's like, it's not the first time the drummer fucked up the album. And we were all just like, ah. But yeah, I learned to listen at that point. It's one of the only ways you can. So I think we kind of already knocked out my next question as far as like demoing those songs. Was there a song in particular that was like just the hardest to nail down as far as where it is now?
For me, it was definitely the vocals of Jaeger Bomb, because hearing that instrumental track, I'll never forget. We were in the studio already tracking drums and bass for other tracks, sort of just pre-lockdown, like uh, uh pandemic shit. And in the album Discord group, Barett just sends through this demo. He's like, "Here, cop this." And I remember listening to it in the control room with Andre and a couple of the other guys, and Andre's just like, "This has got to be on the album." And just the way it washed over me, that initial listen with like the tempo changes and just, not having a grasp on what now feels like a pretty standard structure, but like just hearing it as this like top to bottom assault of everything but vocals. I just remember thinking like, one, where the fuck is there even space for vocals? And just the blank page stapled to a monolith. And I was just like, wow, I don't even know uh where this is gonna like what I'm gonna pull out for this. So yeah, that one was the most daunting for me. um it's weird. It's for me personally, it's like sometimes I feel like I don't know how another song could be possibly written by me or anyone else on the planet. Like it's the well's been tapped. What else is there to do? And then you just sort of like you roll your sleeves up and plant the little seed of the first little idea, and then it starts to sprout. And yeah, to go back to what I was saying about the process of those vocals with Manny, you get another brain in the mix, in the brain trust, and then